Hello family, I am Amber and this is Making Room for More. Today I'm going to be sharing with you more about my journey to motherhood. If you're new around here, you may not know that I am a mother of 4, but that road ended up being one of the toughest things that I've ever experienced in my life. First of all, finding out about infertility and then going through IUI, IVF, sifting through PCOS. I'm going to be sharing with you all of the different things that we went through to get to where we are now. So I won't get into my love story for today, which is a whole nother topic. My husband and I were married for 4 years, and we decided at that point we wanted to start having children. It was always kind of our plan to wait a little bit and then start. I can remember getting pregnancy tests and thinking like, okay, I'm gonna be pregnant, we're gonna have this baby, it's gonna be great. Needless to say, I had no idea that it was going to turn into one of the hardest moments in my entire life. We were trying for about a year, and after taking multiple tests, it was just like they continuously were negative. I had kept myself, I had done everything right to be able to bring another life into this world, and it was really, really challenging to think, what is going on? But even in that, I think at that point, I still didn't think a whole lot of it. I just had visited the doctor and I was taking another pregnancy test actually there that time, and it was negative again. And I can remember sitting in that chair and that nurse told me, she was just like, sorry, hun. She was like, it's a no, you're not pregnant. And I first of all, wanted to crawl up under a rock because there were, other people that were there, but I just wanted to cry because it was just like, seriously, again, I'm not pregnant. And I don't remember exactly everything that unfolded at that point, but I remember talking to my doctor. It might have been another appointment later, and she was just like, hey, how's everything coming along with you trying to get pregnant and everything? And I just, was telling her we still wanted to have kids, but it just hadn't happened yet. She had great bedside manner, and she just was like, well, you know what? I'm going to refer you to an endocrinologist, a fertility clinic. They can kind of just give you more insight into getting pregnant and kind of help you, through that. And even at that moment, I really had no idea what all was about to unfold. I'm thinking, I'll go to this doctor, they'll help me track things more closely, get me back on track, and then we'll be able to get pregnant. We go to the doctor, and it's this survey that you fill out and all these questions about when are your periods and what your family history is and how long have you been trying on all of these things. And then they start doing all of these tests on myself, and they do tests on Larry, and it was just like, okay. And even at that point, I was just like, oh, okay, this is part of it. And I remember going back to the doctor. They were like, we want you to come in, we want to talk about everything, like what we found and all of this. And I'm like, okay. And so at that point, they tell me, you have PCOS. I had never heard of PCOS. I had no idea what it was. And I found out that I had cysts all over my ovaries. I actually had 2 really large cysts. And because of the larger ones and all of the smaller cysts that were all over my ovaries, I wasn't ovulating. So that was one thing. And then they also said that Larry had low sperm count. And so the combination of the two, they were like, it's pretty much impossible for you to get pregnant on your own. And I think that at that point, it started to make more sense. Like, wow, this is going to be some work. We're going to have to do some things. Larry and I just really wanted to understand our options. And fortunately, we were at a really good clinic with a really good endocrinologist, and she explained all of our options, and we asked a lot of questions and just really wanted to have an understanding of what was going on. So ultimately, the conclusions that we came to, we could do IUI, which was artificial insemination, and we could ultimately move on to IVF, which was in vitro fertilization if it got to that point and we still weren't pregnant. Larry and I just came into agreement, and we decided like, hey, this is what we want to do, and if this is what it's going to take, we're going to go for it. And at that point, we didn't tell any of our family members. We really didn't tell any of our friends. We didn't tell anyone because it was such a foreign concept to us. But then also too, we were Christians, and we were like, we don't know, like, people might be like, well, why are you trying to do all of this stuff artificially? And so we just decided that we were going to walk through this journey on our own. On top of the fact that people always would constantly ask us about when are you gonna have babies? When are you gonna get pregnant? When are you like from our wedding day at our reception? People were like pressuring us, and we were like, you know what? This is enough for us to try to digest and figure out on our own. We are not going to share with everyone that this is a process that we're going through. We got educated, and there were pamphlets and different things that we could read through to understand the process. And for IUI, essentially what it is, they take a collection of Larry's sperm, and I started going through all of these hormone treatments and appointments and monitoring my blood and essentially making sure that they were working to get me to ovulate because I wasn't ovulating. All of these things that were happening. And for me, on top of that, I was a very career-oriented person at that time. I had climbed the corporate ladder. I was leading a team of people. I was managing millions of dollars. I was also in an environment where work life, having a family, starting a family, that wasn't like really praised at that time, at that particular place. And so, I'm going to all of these appointments because it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very like volatile is the only word that I can think of, but they're trying to monitor when your body gets to certain levels. There's a lot of blood work that's drawn, and there's a lot of monitoring that's happening through like ultrasound and stuff like that. But because it really depends on how your body is accepting all of the medications and the hormones and when it actually decides to ovulate, it's very sporadic. So you're going and then you're going back and you're trying to see how the levels are. And then they'll tell you, you need to come back again. We knew that with IUI, eventually they would take the sperm. And once I did ovulate, they would put the sperm inside of me through a catheter. And then that's how you would get pregnant. So anyhow, we went through that whole process, and it was a hard process. I mean, I was doing injections, and fortunately Larry, he's a pharmaceutical rep, and so he's very familiar with kind of like medical things, administering shots. That kind of calms some of my nerves, but I'm taking all these shots and I'm trying to coordinate with the doctor and understand from the nurses. At times I would be like walking away from my desk and like trying to hide in the bathroom and figure out what was going on, because I was also going for this promotion at the time to get my dream job, and I didn't want that to hinder anything. It was truly just Larry and I walking this out, leaning on each other, trusting God that he would be able to just continue to be with us through the process. Towards the time that it was coming up on me taking the pregnancy test to see if it actually worked, I kind of knew. I feel like I already like cried it out, came to grips with the reality. And so when I found out it was negative, I was like, okay, well, it didn't happen this time. So we actually ended up going through another round of IUI and found out again that we were not pregnant. And after that round of IUI, I think I felt pretty hopeless, because it was like almost like kind of like a sure thing. Like, hey, you have a woman, you have a man, you have the sperm, you have the eggs, you time it all up, you put it in there, and you should be pregnant. But after trying twice, and I was thinking like after the first time, okay, maybe we just need to adjust the medicine or something like that. Like the timing wasn't exactly right, but we'll get it the second time. After the second time, it was negative again. I went into like this mode of, am I never gonna have kids? Depression really started to try to set in, because I was really working hard on my career and I was ready for my next promotion, and that hadn't happened yet. And I felt like I was getting older and I wanted to have kids by a certain age. And I had done what I thought was necessary in order to prepare myself. And we were praying and all of these things. And it was just like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I have kids? You know how there's something in life that you just want so badly, and you feel like you've done everything in your power to get there, but it's still not happening? It really, really, really hurt. And like, I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to about it, because we didn't want to continue to go through these cycles of, are you pregnant? What's happening? What's going on with the doctors? Because managing all of that was such a job in itself, on top of the emotions and the hormones that were already pumping through my body. And fortunately for me, I didn't have a lot of emotional roller coasters, which is very common. I kind of just like took it on the chin and walked through it. But still, even in that, it was just a lot. It was a lot going on. It was a lot to process. It was a lot to digest. It was one night and I said, you know what? I'm not going to let this whole situation overtake my life anymore. Like, I'm not gonna let it be that thing that I constantly am thinking of. I'm not gonna let this depression that's trying to work itself into my mind take that over. And that was my turning point. That was when I really was like, you know what? I'm not in control anyway. Let's just take a break from the fertility treatments and from everything. And I'm just going to focus on enjoying life. Now looking back, we were able to travel freely and save even more for the children, which kids are expensive, and really enjoy our lives as a married couple. And I just released that pressure. I have to have a baby. I want to have a baby. That's the only thing that I care about in life right now. I distinctly remember having this conversation with God too. And I was just like, I really desire to have children. And I believe that your word says that I should be able to have children. But at the same time, I also believe that your word says that you hold the master plan, that you are in control. And if for some reason us not having a family is not what the vision is for our lives for whatever reason, I accept that too, because I know ultimately whatever happens, I'm going to be okay because I have God and I trust his plan. Once I did that, there was just such a peace that had come over the whole situation. Yes, I still really wanted a child. And yes, I still wholeheartedly believed that it was possible. But I also went into this place of like, no matter what, I'm going to be okay. I am going to be okay. We took a little bit of a break and we talked about it again. We prayed about it and we're like, okay, we're going to do IVF. So IVF is next phase, at least for us, going through this process of treating the PCOS and the low sperm count. We ramped the meds back up, continued with all the doctor's appointment and monitoring, what they call it. At one point, I had like bruises in my veins because I had so much blood that had been drawn. Vitro is when they actually take the eggs from me. So they put me to sleep. Once my levels were showing that they were at the right place and all of that, they did what they called an egg retrieval, and they took the eggs out of me. And a big thing, if you're not super familiar with the whole IVF process, is like, okay, how many eggs can they get out? And then essentially, once they get the eggs, they have to fertilize the eggs with the sperm. And so it was just like this waiting period. I think it was only like a couple of days, but it was just like, okay, I did the retrieval and then I wanted to know how many eggs they got. So they called me and they told me like I had 20 eggs. And I'm like, okay, like yes, because if without the eggs, you're not doing anything. And so I was excited about having the eggs, but I was also extremely sick during that time. For me, after the retrieval, like my body was out of commission. I had gotten dehydrated and I thought I was going to have to go to the emergency room, but I went back to the doctor and they were able to get me together, but I had to literally lay down for a whole week. I couldn't do anything. It was just really, really intense. But anyway, I was excited that they had gotten the eggs. And so then the next step is to take the sperm and basically put them with the eggs, I guess like in a petri dish type, like a science situation. Another big milestone is like, okay, did you get any embryos? Because essentially those sperm and eggs need to fertilize. They got four. And at first I was like really disappointed. I was like, well, I had 20 eggs. We only got 4. But the doctors had explained the different options with freezing them versus not freezing them. And so we decided to freeze them. We were on our way. The next question was, okay, how many eggs or embryos do you want to get put back into you? And so we went through all of those options, and that was tough too, because we had to decide like, okay, what are we gonna do? How many? And it was really came down to, felt like we had a better chance of getting pregnant if we did 2. So we decided to do 2, and fast forward, we got pregnant with twins. And when we found out, I won't even get into that whole story right now, but it was just like, wow. You mean like that journey was beyond what I ever imagined. The Lord was with us every step of the way. And when I removed myself and things coming together the way I envisioned they would need to come together, and really just put my trust in his plan and being okay with his plan, all of a sudden we had twins and I had a beautiful pregnancy. I mean, it was like a miraculous pregnancy. And I ended up getting the promotion. So I got my career job that I had been wanting since I started college. And I had worked really hard for that. And all the pieces had just come into place. And I'm so grateful for that. That was the story of Mitchell and Madison. That was the story of me becoming a mom for the first time. Only wanted two. We always said we wanted two. It was a boy and a girl. We were good. And fast forward several years later. Remember, we had 4 embryos. But it was something pulling on our hearts. It was hard to walk away from the other 2 embryos that were still frozen. Even though we were convinced that we were done, we prayed and we prayed and we asked the Lord, is this what you want us to do, even beyond of our own personal desires? And we determined that we were going to go for it again, because ultimately, if we had been given the opportunity to have more children, particularly after all that we went through, why would we not take that opportunity? Let's just give it a chance. And so we went for it again. We put the last 2 embryos in because we had been through the process before. Even though it was still a very challenging process, even though it still took a lot out of us, it was very different because we had 2 children on top of me trying to stay on track with all these shots and medication. It's a very calculated situation as you're going through it. It all came together and we got Noah, and then we thought our family was done. And that brings us to present day. After all of this, things started to feel like I was pregnant, but it was weird because it was like, well, I was told that you would never get pregnant on your own. And lo and behold, I'll link the video if you haven't seen it already. But I miraculously get pregnant naturally. And now number 4 is on the way after all of that. And it just reminds me that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you desire, no matter what you might be facing or you might not understand, or things that don't add up, I think back to that Amber years ago that wanted to have a child so bad, and there were moments where it just seemed like it was impossible, to now sometimes I just sit back and I'm like looking at my family, and it's gonna make me teary right now, but I'm like, wow, God, you did that when I thought that it wasn't. You had a whole master plan this whole time. And it's just a beautiful thing. Sometimes we see people's lives and we're like, oh my goodness, like, that's so amazing. I wish I had that. But you don't necessarily know what it took to get to that point. We truly can accomplish anything if we trust God and we trust his plan. And we know that everything that we're doing is so much bigger than us. It's beyond our control, and we might as well just let him have control anyway. And now, I'm sitting here with this beautiful family that is beyond what I could have ever imagined. I'm not even going to get into that right now either. What God did, he truly did it. And I just had to surrender to his plan and just know that everything was going to be okay. I still carry that same posture and mindset and mentality as I walk through this current pregnancy. And I just encourage you, whatever you might be walking through and trying to sort through in your life right now, there is hope. It is possible, and you're gonna be okay. That was my journey to motherhood. If you have questions about any of these things, please leave your questions below. Continue to follow me and our family on social media at Making Room for More. We also chronicled our whole IVF journey this last time with Noah. You want to see some of the things that I was talking about, all of the medications and the shots and the retrieval process and everything that it took to get there, you can check that out on the channel as well. And until next time, make sure you subscribe, like this video if you did enjoy it, pass it on to someone that may need that bit of encouragement. And until next time, take care.